So I'm at my doctor job at the hospital, right? And I'm doing this long 18-hour open heart surgery, and it's taken forever. I'm getting tired, I'm getting hungry, so eventually I tell the patient and the nurses, hey, I'm gonna go get lunch real quick, I'll be right back. So I go out into the waiting room when we have the vending machines. We have one of those nice vending machines, the new ones that takes credit cards, so it doesn't even matter if you don't have cash. So then I see they have Cheezits in the vending machine, and you know I'm gonna get Cheezits because I love Cheezits. So I swipe my card, get a bag of Cheez-Its. I swipe my card again, I get a second bag of Cheez-Its. And I'm thinking, 2 bags of Cheez-Its are not enough Cheez-Its. I gotta buy the whole damn row of Cheez-Its. So I swipe my card again, and as I'm doing that, I notice, out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody with binoculars watching me buy Cheez-Its. And I'm thinking, why would somebody have binoculars in a hospital watching me buy Cheez-Its? And then I realize, he must be with the Cheez-It Corporation. He's trying to keep track of how many Cheez-Its a single person can buy. And I'm thinking, maybe I'm going to win some kind of contest, you know, because I'm buying all these Cheez-Its. So I start swiping my card really slow so he can get all my information, because I want to make sure he can track me down to give me my Cheez-It reward, you know? So then I buy like 7 bags of Cheez-Its. And then I walk over to the guy, because my curiosity is getting the best of me. And then I'm like, hey, I see you. And then the guy hides his binoculars. And then I'm like, no, I already caught you. I know you're with the Cheez-It Corporation. And then he's like, no, sir, I'm not with the Cheez-It Corporation. And I'm like, no, I saw your binoculars. I already got you. And then I see in front of him, he has a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers on it. And it looks kind of like a credit card number, but then I realize that must be all the Cheez-Its I've bought in my lifetime. I'm definitely winning this contest. So I give the guy my name and my home address and my social security number, all the information he needs, you know, because I also want to make sure that I can write this off as a gift on my taxes when I get all my Cheez-Its. So he's so happy. Like, he's so happy to have all this information. So I'm like, I definitely won this contest. So I go back home to my wife and I'm like, honey, Cheesy Wonka is going to give me the Cheez-It factory. I'm going to be a Cheez-It king. She doesn't believe me. She thinks I'm crazy. And I'm like, honey, you just watch. This is going to be awesome. So I sit back and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. And then my phone starts ringing. And it's my credit card company. And they said that my credit cards are all maxed out. And then my bank calls and said they're repossessing my house and my credit is ruined. Because it turns out there was no Cheesy Wonka. And that guy did not work for the Cheez-It company. He was a credit card scammer. And he stole my identity and all of my money. So now, whenever I see somebody with binoculars, I just start throwing haymakers. Like one time, I was in the park and I saw these old ladies with binoculars, and then I started throwing haymakers. And yeah, it turns out they were bird watching, but still. So back in high school, I was in PE class playing this game called kickball. Now, I'd never really heard of kickball, and I didn't understand the rules, but I thought I could probably figure it out. So they rolled this big red ball to me, and I thought that was some kind of obstacle. So I jumped over it, and then I ran up and I kicked the guy in the mound right in the balls. And the ball crunch was so satisfying. He squealed like a little girl. And then after that, I was just addicted to kicking balls. I ran around all the bases kicking everybody in the balls. Everybody on the playground was just laying on the ground holding their balls. And I thought I was the kickball champion because everybody was calling me Ball Buster Brooklyn. Until the PE teacher ran up and told me to go to the principal's office for kicking people in the balls. So I kicked him in the balls, and then I went to the principal's office, and the principal told me that I was suspended for kicking people in the balls. So I kicked him in the balls too. And then they called the cops, and as you can imagine, I kicked them in the balls, and they were not happy about that at all. So they sent me to jail, you know, they took my mugshot, I kicked the photographer in the balls, and then they sent me to my cell, and I kicked my cellmate in the balls. So then they sent me to the electric chair, and I kicked the executioner in the balls. And then after that, they didn't know what to do. So they called my parents, and my parents came and got me, and my dad said I was grounded for kicking people in the balls and that might teach me a lesson. So I kicked him in the balls. And then they sent me to a therapist to figure out why I was kicking people in the balls so much. And my therapist said it had something to do with unresolved feelings about my mother, so I kicked him in the balls. And then they sent me to a mental institution, and they put me in a straitjacket. But my legs were still free, so I kept kicking people in the balls. And then they put me in straight pants so I couldn't kick anybody in the balls. And then my parents and the teachers and the doctors and the cops and Bill Clinton, who was president at the time, they all got together and were trying to figure out what to do about me because I was a serial ball kicker. And then they decided that they needed to amputate my legs because I just could not be trusted with legs anymore. So they amputated my legs, and I haven't kicked anyone in the balls ever since. So I was in elementary school, and we were making macaroni art, and I made a smiley face. And I thought it was the best smiley face you could make as a third grader. So I called the teacher over, and I was like, Mrs. Williams, look! And she gave me a thumbs up. So I was like, fuck yeah, I got a thumbs up, that's me. But then, There he was, Macaroni Jones. He made a dinosaur out of macaroni. Like, I'm talking, it was gorgeous. I thought it was a real dinosaur, his art was so good. And Mrs. Williams saw it and said, "Hey, look, class, look how good Macaroni Jones's art is." And the entire class clapped and cheered, and this one kid even pulled his eyes out and said, "I never want to see anything ever again, because I've seen it all now. I want that macaroni art to be the last thing I ever see." So that pissed me off, so I went home that night, and I got a bucket of glue and a box of macaroni, and I stayed up all night to try to make macaroni art better than his. Then I went to school the next day and said, "Hey, Mrs. Williams, check this shit out. I made the best possible tree out of macaroni." And Mrs. Williams said, "Very nice, guy." And it broke my heart. "Very nice? That's it, bitch?" Then everyone heard a honk outside, and we looked out the window, and Macaroni Jones pulled up in his macaroni car. He made an entire car out of macaroni. You should have seen the kid with no eyes. He pulled his ears off after that. He said that was the last thing he ever wanted to hear because it was so beautiful. I even heard Macaroni Jones made his entire house out of macaroni. He even put a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. So I vowed from that day forward to be the best at macaroni art. I never heard what happened to Macaroni Jones after that, but I think he might be the quarterback for the New England Patriots now. So when I was in high school, there was this guy named Eyes McGee whose eyes were always mad. Everyone in school always wondered why his eyes were so mad. No matter what he did, he was mad. We went to the water park. Mad. We got ice cream. Mad. He got all A's on his report card. Mad. He met the Pope. Mad. Won the Sweet Life with Zach and Cody Go-Gurt cruise and met Zach and Cody and Mr. Mosby. Mad. Found out in 1991 Mr. Mosby killed someone in a DUI accident because his blood alcohol content was 3 times the legal limit, and he was sentenced to 5 years in jail but got out and won because he was good at acting. That's true, look it up. But that made him mad. He asked a girl out and she said yes. Mad. He won prom king. Mad. He won the high school football championship. Mad. For his 16th birthday, his parents got him a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, and guess what? Mad. Nothing seemed to make this dude happy, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So one day I asked him, "Eyes McGee, why are you so mad?" And it turned out he had a stick up his ass. Not like the saying either. I mean like an actual stick up his ass, just stuck up there. So he wouldn't let anyone take it out, so me and my friends got an idea. We decided to play tug of war, and I stood behind him, and when it was time to pull, I didn't pull the rope, I pulled the stick out of his ass. But when it came out, it ruptured his colon, and he had to get a colostomy bag. Then he was really mad, Eyes McGee. So I hopped on a non-stop flight to Nepal, because that's where Mount Everest is, and then I hired a Sherpa to take me up to the top of the mountain. But about halfway up Mount Everest, my Sherpa died, so I had to make the rest of the hike on my own. But when I got to the top of Mount Everest, I saw a bald eagle's nest, and I thought, wow, this is gonna be easy. So I grabbed one of the eggs, and then all of a sudden this eagle swooped down and punched me right in the face. Like, he punched me. Like, he didn't scratch me, he balled up his talons and punched me in the face. So I started throwing haymakers. I started punching him in his face. And then the eagle held me down and started pecking at my eyes, and then he threw me off the top of Mount Everest, and I fell all the way back down to the bottom. But I still had the egg in my hand, so I got that. So then I hopped on another non-stop flight to Guam, and then from there I took a submarine out into the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and I saw a family of octopi. So then I wrote free candy on the side of my submarine, because even octopus kids can't resist free candy. So then when they came up, I kidnapped the baby octopuses, and the octopus mom and dad, they were so upset, they were screaming an octopus. I mean, I don't speak octopus, but they seemed very upset. So from there, I hopped on another non-stop flight over to Italy, and I went over to Papa John's house so he could cook me up a pizza. So he answered the door and he called me a racial slur, because I guess that's just how he says hello. So then he cooked up the pizza with the octopi on it, and then he called the pizza a racial slur, and then he called me a racial slur. So from there, I hopped on another non-stop flight to North Africa, which is where the Sahara Desert is, and then I rented a camel and then wandered out into the middle of the Sahara Desert, and then my camel died of dehydration, so I lost the deposit on the camel. So I just kind of wandered around the Sahara Desert for a while, you know, I was dehydrated, so I was hallucinating, and I was starting to see things, and I saw a mirage, or I thought it was a mirage, but it turned out it was an actual blue cactus. So I took it, and then I blacked out from dehydration. So then I woke up in a pyramid hospital, and I said, well, thank you for saving my life, and then I hopped on another non-stop flight to India. I got a lot of frequent flyer miles on this trip. So then when I got to India, I saw a bunch of people gathered around worshipping a cow, and then I said, hey, I gotta take this cow to the vet, because I think he has mad cow disease. But really, I just took it out back, and I shot it, and I butchered it for the meat, and then I came out with 2 Big Macs. So from there, I hopped on another non-stop flight over to NASA, and then I had them send me on a rocket to Tatooine. But then when I got to Tatooine, I got robbed by some Jawas, and they were all like, Houdini! And then when I was in Mos Eisley, I found the McDonald's there. So I went through the drive-thru, and they were like, Houdini! And then I ordered that blue milk you wanted, and they gave it to me, and they said, Houdini! And so after I came out of the drive-thru, I saw they actually have a Chick-fil-A on Tatooine too, and it's open on Sundays because the days don't work the same there. So I went through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A and they went, Houdini! And I got that chicken. So then from there, I hopped on a rocket and I went back to my house and then I went into my pantry and it turns out I actually already had a 2-month-old expired can of Chef Boyardee ravioli and I had some Pop-Tarts, so I just took the crust off those.